Welcome back to Court TV Live. Breaking news out of New York City as the mayor, Eric Adams, holding that press conference with police officials. We also expect to hear a named suspect in this press conference. Let's go in.
Do something, and they did. And because of that, we believe we have a strong person of interest to deal with this case. I want to now turn it over to the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world, and of course, the strong relationships we have with our local law enforcement partners. On every level, local, state, and federal, we all serve the same public safety mission. And this case, which captured the attention of an entire nation, is another example of how connected we are and how important it is to work together, share information, and pursue every lead. For just over 5 days, our NYPD investigators combed through thousands of hours of video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and processed every bit of forensic evidence, DNA, fingerprints, IP addresses, and so much more to tighten the net. We deployed drones, canine units, and scuba divers. We leveraged the domain awareness system, Argus cameras, and conducted aviation canvasses. And our detectives also went door to door, interviewing potential witnesses and doing the good old-fashioned police work that our investigators are famous for. This combination of old-school detective work and new-age technology is what led to this result today. And we must also acknowledge the instrumental role the media and the public played in this case. The images that we shared with the public were spread far and wide, and the tips we received led to the recovery of crucial evidence. We should never underestimate the power of the public to be our eyes and our ears in these investigations. This is the third time in 3 weeks that a member of the public has seen something and said something and done something that led to a high-profile arrest. The triple stabbing homicide in Manhattan, the gunpoint robberies in Queens during which an NYPD officer was shot, and now this. Now, the case will continue through the criminal justice process, and while we are proud of today's accomplishment, we must, of course, remember that a family is in mourning. I want to again extend my sympathies to Brian's family, his co-workers, and all who knew him. Finally, I want to thank the women and men of the NYPD, especially our Detective Bureau personnel, with a strong assist from our intelligence analysts. We also thank the SAC of the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division, Leslie Rodriguez-Bekshies. And I want to commend the staff of the Manhattan DA's office and especially DA Alvin Bragg. He has been working with us 24/7 on this case, and I am incredibly grateful for his partnership. I'll now pass it along to our great Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, who will provide additional information. Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated earlier, a male was taken into custody today in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning. He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York. Members of the NYPD Detective Bureau are currently traveling to Pennsylvania with members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to interview this subject. This case was brought to a successful conclusion based on the coordinated effort between numerous NYPD units, including the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, our federal partners at the FBI, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and of course, members of the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania. On Thursday, one day after this crime was committed, the NYPD released a photo of the shooter in this case. This picture was obtained by the NYPD during one of their extensive video canvasses. We took that photograph and we asked for the public's help in identifying this subject, and the public responded. Hundreds of tips began to pour into our hotline. Each tip was investigated thoroughly, and we began to release additional photographs as they came into our possession. The NYPD provided these photos to numerous media outlets. Local, national, and international outlets released the photo via television, print, social media, and online content. Luckily, a citizen in Pennsylvania recognized our subject and called local law enforcement. Members of the Altoona Police Department responded to the call, and based on their investigation, they notified the NYPD. This investigation is still active and ongoing.
All right, we need a break. We're going to head back. We'll pick up that press conference right where we left off. The breaking news, Luigi Mangione, 26 years old, in custody for the UnitedHealthcare shooting in New York. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we follow breaking news this hour. Police have identified a suspect in the fatal shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The mayor's office and police officials have been holding a press conference detailing all the new information, including the naming of the suspect, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. Let's go back in and pick it up where we left off with the police detective speaking now.
First, and then we'll... Mark?
I had a couple of questions about the document that he was found in possession with. Can you go a little bit more in depth about those motivations that you mentioned? Was that CEO specifically named in that document? Was there anything more about him wanting to go after others? And also in that document, was there any indication that explains us how the level of detail that he went into killing him? Like, is there anything?
Like I said, that document is currently in the possession of the Altoona Police Department as part of their investigation. But just from briefly speaking with them, we don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document. But it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Over here, sir.
NJ?
Chief, was the suspect wearing a mask at the time he was spotted in the McDonald's? And also, criminal cases often have a linchpin. Can you point to a single linchpin that helped crack this case?
There's numerous linchpins in this case, in the fact that we've recovered an enormous amount of forensic evidence, an enormous amount of video, and once again, with your help and the public's help. So I really couldn't put it on one thing, but if I had to, it would be the release of that photograph from the media.
Dean?
You said he had a passport on him. Do you believe he was trying to flee the country? And also, are you still looking for any evidence in Central Park with regards to the bike?
We had divers in the water yesterday that came up negative results. The passport, we don't believe that he was planning on doing any traveling at this time. We don't think at this point in our investigation, we don't think he was trying to flee the country.
The person at the McDonald's, were they buying food? What were they doing at that exact moment?
It was an employee at the McDonald's.
Right, but what was the suspect doing?
He was sitting there eating.
Will the suspect be brought back to New York and charged here, and when?
We're going to have to work that out with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He's going to be facing gun charges there, and at some point we'll work out through extradition to bring him back to New York to face charges here, working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Hi, Anita from the New York Post. I was just hoping to get more details on the capture itself. Did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to cops? And we've also reported that he published online anti-health care industry rantings. Can you share with us some of the services that he posted on?
We're still working through his social media. We're going to do a complete scrub of that. Preliminarily, like I said, he seems that he has some ill will toward corporate America, but that will all come out as part of our investigation. We're not done here. We're still going to be putting this together. We're still going to be working very hard to bring this to a successful conclusion.
And the capture itself, did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to police?
I don't have that information.
Oh, sorry. Can you elaborate on how he got there, the path he took from Port Authority and on the George Washington Bridge to Altoona, PA? Same thing.
This just happened this morning. We'll be working, backtracking his steps from New York to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
I was going to ask if we knew anything, if he took a bus to Philadelphia first and then somehow got to Altoona. But
We're still working on that. We're still working through that.
Britain. Is there any indication that anybody else was helping him from the inside, you know, as far as tracking the CEO's movements?
Once again, we're still working this investigation very hard. It's not at its conclusion yet. That could come out during our investigation, but as of right now, we have no indication that that took place.
Chief, did he have any weapons or anything like that with him when he was arrested?
He was in possession of a ghost gun that had the capability of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor.
Can you get into a little bit about the technical aspects of the investigation? I know you deployed an unprecedented amount of technology. You also activated the Sentry program through Intel. Can you talk about how that is going to play into actually building the case as far as cell phone and all of the other technical aspects of what you've done?
In this case, it really came down to technology was the use of drones in Central Park, and really comes down to the video canvas that we did. We used every source of video that we could collect, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from hundreds of sources, and that helped bring this to where we are right now.
The gun is it believed to be the gun he used in the shooting? And there was some talk that it was a veterinarian type gun. Is that accurate?
No, as of right now, the information we're getting from Altoona is that the gun appears to be a ghost gun. May have been made on a 3D printer. The capability of firing a 9mm round. Obviously, that will come out during our ballistics testing.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver Barnes from the Financial Times. Do you have any indication like how long this handwritten, is it a handwritten manifesto that you found on the suspect? And then also whether or not he put it online at all?
Don't know if it's online. As of right now, it's a handwritten 3-page document.
Chief, does he have ties to that area, and was he someone who you knew by name before his arrest?
We believe he may have attended college in Pennsylvania, but like I said earlier, he has ties to Maryland and California and Hawaii.
You knew him by name before today. Was his name on your radar?
Excuse me?
Was his name on your radar? Was he someone who you had been looking into before his arrest?
No, we did not have his name prior to today.
Lynn? Brent? Okay. Does he have any prior arrests? I know there were none for New York City, but is there any prior arrests anywhere else in the country?
We have not come across any arrests in the country.
Chief, hi, how are you? On two things. On the ghost gun, is it something you're going to be looking into to see if he made it himself? Can he make that himself? Or would he have to buy the gun the way it was?
No, once again, that'll be part of our investigation as we follow up.
I mean, obviously he's going to face murder charges, but is there any chance that he could face any other charges because he was targeting the CEO and because of his writings and other things that we're now finding on him? Federal charges or
that determination will be made by Alvin Bragg.
Yes, what connections does he have in Pennsylvania that you know of, and are they in Altoona specifically?
We believe he attended college in Pennsylvania.
Does he know anybody in Pennsylvania?
Wouldn't be able to tell you that.
All right, we're going to take one more question on shooting, Marla, and then we're going to go.
You talk about the manifesto having said things against corporations, but specifically UnitedHealthcare, and do you believe that Mangione acted alone?
We believe at this point, our investigation is leaning toward he was acting alone. So, like I stated earlier, we're still working through the investigation. We're not stopping today. And as far as the manifesto, like I said, I don't have the complete details of that. It's in the possession of the Altoona Police Department.
We're going to shift to opt-out.
Yep. Good job, Chief. Commissioner, Chief Mangione.
And there you have it, that major press conference there happening in New York City announcing the suspect now named in the case of the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, Brian Thompson, who was gunned down last year. We've got a panel of people to weigh in on this breaking news as the story continues to develop. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who is with us. We also have trial attorney Marjorie Mesidor, who's an attorney there in New York. Kelly, let me start with you. We're hearing things like this person had ties to Hawaii, California, Maryland in terms of where he lived, and he went to school in Pennsylvania. Tips led to the recovery is what was emphasized by the police commissioner. What stood out to you about this press conference?
Julia, the public's help, the media putting up the picture. Once we saw that picture, everyone was talking about it. This was last week, and people were saying, if you know this person, if you had any familiarity with this person, you would be able to tell who that person was. One of the other things that stood out from that conference that they just had in New York City was that they said he was acting alone, which we were out there last week retracing the suspect's footsteps. And one of the things that was really noticeable is that when you take a look at the Hilton, we stayed at the Hilton Hotel, this hotel that Brian Thompson was walking into for the investor conference in which he was shot right outside. So you're on 6th Avenue, which is the main entrance, and then he was shot on a side entrance. So this was between 53rd and 54th Street in New York City. It's still remarkable to me, and I didn't hear anyone ask the commissioner there in that news conference if they have any information as to how he knew where the CEO's whereabouts were, how he knew he was going to be walking along trying to get into that side entrance, because there are other entrances there to that Hilton. It's huge. It's a huge hotel. There were thousands and thousands of people. So I'd like to hear more as to how they think he was able to, if he was acting alone like they believe, how he was able to know that Brian Thompson was going to go into that side entrance.
Yeah, acting alone, that's another big point that we just learned in that press conference. Marjorie Mesidor, tell me what is happening behind the scenes in that prosecutor's office. When you have news like this that comes down, you now have a person that you can attach charges to. What's going on?
Well, the very first thing is going to be making sure that every single piece of information and every single piece of evidence was gotten through proper and appropriate means. You want to make sure that this is compartmentalized, that the person is contained. You want to see who's involved in the interrogation, who's in the room, what questions are being asked, what evidence are being presented. Because if you do not have a dog in that fight, if you do not have someone in that room, someone on your team who knows how you do things, then you run the risk sometimes of being stuck with statements, questions, and tactics that really you had no involvement with. So the interdepartmental and intra-departmental cooperation is going to be key here to make sure that everybody gets what they need so we can get convictions across the board.
Absolutely. Kelly Craft, we're hearing that he had ill will towards corporate America or the healthcare system. I think people really wanted to know in this case whether or not he had some kind of personal connection in terms of maybe denied health care, if there's a reason that he was so adamant about his ill will, just to quote the police commissioner, towards corporate America and the healthcare industry. Is there anything in your mind as far as lingering questions about a motive in this case?
They're going to reveal that, and we, in due time, are going to hear more about what was written in that 3-page document. It is very clear when you take a look at the trail of the suspect here. He wanted to send a message. We had the bullets that were outside that Hilton that the investigators recovered that had etched on them depose, defend, deny. Those are lawyer terms. That's what you hear in litigation when you're talking about fighting the health insurance industry. And what you are saying, they denied this coverage. So he had those written on or etched on those bullets. Also the monopoly money that was found inside that backpack that they located in Central Park, in a way sending a message there as well that it's just like play money to the health insurance industry, these giants in corporate America that are just making billions of dollars. That conference, the investor conference they were going to have that day, they were going to announce revenues, and I don't remember it exactly, but I think it was somewhere $451 billion in revenue or something along those lines, and I might have that number wrong, so don't quote me on it. But he had that monopoly money in his backpack, sending this message again that you are taking all of this money from the maybe middle-class America, people who need your help the most, and it's just like play money to all of you. And then also this 3-page document, and Julie, I have to tell you, I cannot wait to see and hear more about what he wrote in that document. When you take a look at the public sentiment in regard to this, it was a terrible tragedy that Brian Thompson lost his life. It's devastating to him, his family, his friends, but a lot of people had strong feelings about this and what they feel they have been denied coverage on certain things they've had to get, procedures. And so a lot of people had a lot to say about this particular incident.
For sure, for sure. And as you're recounting the evidence, it's making it so much more clear, and you can almost hear a prosecution's opening statement where he almost wanted to get caught. All of the things that he is leaving behind, it's, you would think, according to what the prosecution will say in this case and what police are saying, is that he wanted to leave this message. Marjorie, are you surprised, we heard in this press conference, that he wasn't trying to flee the country? They don't have any indication that he was trying to flee the country. We thought perhaps he had gone from New York to possibly Atlanta. We know investigators were in Atlanta trying to see if he was there, if they could get more information about him. But he was 233 miles away in a state. We don't know if the city is something that was connected personally to him, but if he went to school in Pennsylvania and they found him in Pennsylvania, it seems perhaps surprising that he was still in that area. What would you do as a criminal defense attorney with a client like this?
As a criminal defense attorney and with a client particularly like this, in this kind of circumstance, it's going to be almost impossible, if not extremely difficult, to break up all of the key pieces of evidence that the prosecution would put forth to try to see and try to pinpoint that this client was the one who was involved in this particular murder and this particular plot and scheme. I understood very well from the beginning of your question when you were discussing, is it surprising that he was still in the area? If this is a person who is on mission, right? If everything that we have heard this so far, the messaging, the monopoly money, giving voice to the voiceless, and having a message at every point, then the point is not to flee, the point is to be heard. So from a criminal prosecution perspective, if we are saying, right, or if my client is having this position from a manifesto perspective, then the only thing that can be done is to really try to go with some sort of defense that raises some sort of mental illness, some sort of breakdown in mental cognition or depravity in terms of their understanding of the level of seriousness of what it is that they have done.
And Marjorie, you're there in New York. Can you just talk about what this has been like for New Yorkers? I mean, this is a major moment for a case that has dominated the news cycle for 6 days.
That video just really had such a chilling effect against the public at large. It was really Hollywood-style assassination. And the fact that we had video, the fact that we had photos, and these were things that people would say over and over again, how do we not know exactly who this is at this moment right now when we have so much incredible evidence? But this is not a plot in a Hollywood movie. This is real life, and it took real police work and really efforts across interdepartmental cooperation to get us here. I think that New Yorkers are going to sleep a little bit better knowing that we have someone that we are looking at and perhaps answers will be had. But the fact that this was done so openly on camera is something that is going to be a hard pill to swallow moving forward.
The latest out of New York is that the suspect in custody has been named as Luigi Mangione, who is going to be charged in connection to the death of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We'll, of course, continue to follow those developments.